Hi, it's Wednesday again. It's a great privilege to be here, speaking to you from Chut Shel Chesed, Breslov, Israel, the yeshiva of Rabbi Shalom Arush Shlita, speaking to you live from Jerusalem on this beautiful day. You know, we can learn a lot about not coveting, which we were speaking about last week, not wanting things that are not ours. We can learn a lot about that from the book of Ruth. Ruth was a holy convert, as we know. And as the story goes, she became a widow. And her mother-in-law, Naomi, was also a widow. And they were both destitute. They were both poor. And they're coming back to Eretz Yisrael. And since she had Amunah, she went right away to glean from the field, to pick wheat with the other poor people. And Hashem led her, because of her great merit, Hashem led her to the field of a very wealthy and very righteous man named Boaz. And Boaz noticed immediately that Ruth had superior character and that she was very, very modest. Why? Because she would only look in her immediate environment, 4 cubits within her. She wasn't looking around. She wasn't interested in what anyone else was doing. She wasn't interested in who was picking more wheat, who was picking less. Should she hurry up and go to another field? Would she do better there? No. She was happy where Hashem put her, where Hashem led her, which was to this field. And the Zohar Kodesh says, because of her great modesty, that everything that she laid her eyes on, she had such good eyes, was a miraculous blessing for Boaz. And his fields would grow and grow and grow in the merit of this holy convert. And we know that who was the grandson of this holy convert? King David. And where did he get his great humility from? He inherited it from Ruth. How do we know that King David was so humble? Because even when he was anointed king, even when Shmuel HaNavi anointed him king, he didn't feel arrogant, he didn't feel haughty about that. And David HaMelech, who was short in stature, was able to kill the mighty Goliath, and he wasn't haughty about that as well. So, why shouldn't we covet? The 10th commandment, to not covet, to not want your neighbor's things, to not want what isn't yours. First of all, it's because it's a commandment that the Creator gives, not just Jewish people. The commandment gives this, as we said, the commandment to all humanity. Have to be. But secondly, it also is because the underlying rationale of not coveting is that a person who covets is not happy with what he has presently. He's not satisfied with what God is giving him. He doesn't recognize that even the tests that God is giving him are good for him and are meant to bring him closer to him and meant to help him to make his tikkun neshama, his soul correction, and to help him to get to the next world where the rewards are beyond imagination. We can't even imagine we can't even imagine the rewards that a person who is pure in this way will get in this world, but to imagine what he's going to get in the next world, unimaginable. Unimaginable. So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Bender, who was one of the prime teachers of Rabbi Shalom Arush, said that if you could look into the brain of the average person, you would see that his thoughts are insane. The average person's mind is roaming from place to place. He has no menucha, he has no rest. As soon as he sees something, he starts thinking about it. As soon as he sees somebody else, he thinks, well, how does he compare to that person? And before you know it, he's into competitiveness, and he's into envy, and he's into all kinds of other very unhealthy, very unwholesome thoughts. The innocent, even seemingly innocent things that people look at that they go after when you go into a supermarket, into a mall, into a shopping mall, and you see all the wonderful things in the display. You want them, and it makes you unhappy with what you have. The more you want, the more you feel you need things, the more it makes a person sad. The more it makes a person sad. So, we have to understand that this is how people get into what's called emotional and mental overload. They're looking around, they're chalishing for things that they don't have, and it's not good for us. I remember there was a woman once, she said to me she had some extra money, so should she go and refurnish her whole house? She had bad memories about the house because it had been from a former relationship that didn't work out, marriage that didn't work out. And so she wanted to get rid of those memories, and she wanted to go, so she wanted to know if she should go get new sofas and get new cabinets and get new chairs and everything, new lighting. And what did it really depend on? It really depended on, the decision needed to depend on whether or not she was going to do that because she wasn't happy with what Hashem gave her, or, she saw the neighbor's dining room set and she said, wow, look at that dining room, look at that kitchen. I've got to have better. That would not have been a good reason. But she had a good reason. What she wanted to do was she wanted to be samech her children. She wanted her children to be able to start a new life and to get rid of the old memories that were sort of, embedded into that furniture and that paint. So she put fresh paint, she bought new furnishings, and it was really a mitzvah. It was just to bring more simcha into the house, which is a whole different motivation. So, the Shema, which is the first and most basic statement of our belief, of the foundation of Judaism, right? And it's really, as we said, the foundation of the whole world's obligation to serve the one God. The Shema says right away, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is your God, the Lord is one, which gives us that yoke, right, that we have to serve Him. That is the accepting the yoke that He's ruling, right? And what do we say right after we accept that yoke on ourselves? We say immediately that we shall love Hashem with all our heart and all our soul and all our money, right? Right afterwards. So we see that loving Him is the commandment. When we love other things, we start looking around and start loving other things. It's almost like worshiping idols. It's not loving Him. It's actually going against loving Him, because it's saying, hey, you didn't give me enough, Hashem. You didn't give me enough. How come she has that? And he has a new car. And he's making more money. Or his kids got into a better college. No. All of this gets stirred up because people are watching TV and they're watching videos and they're on internet and they're looking at billboards and they're going at the shopping centers. And, what's happening is that Lo sasura acharei levavichem v'acharei einechem, which is also in the Shema. You shouldn't go after your heart and after your eyes. They're straying after their hearts and after their eyes. Beware, don't do that. Don't serve idols. Don't be tempted to love these things. Hashem says, love me. Love me and you'll have it all. Love me. Fulfill the commandment of the Shema, and you've basically fulfilled the whole Torah. Love me, and everything else will go. You'll be able to do everything with joy and with happiness. You'll be able to keep all the other mitzvahs. You'll be able to enjoy davening. You'll be able to enjoy learning. You'll be able to enjoy the holidays and the Shabbos. If you love Hashem. And if you love Hashem, you're going to want to be loyal to Hashem. Because anybody you love, you want to be loyal to that person. That means even if it's hard, you're not going to be tempted. You're going to stay focused on what's right. You're going to stay focused on your goal, which is to go in His way, to live His type of life, which is the good life. It's the best life. Right? And when are we supposed to love Hashem? Always. This is one of the commandments that goes 24/7. All the time. You're supposed to love Hashem all the time. When you're sitting in your house, when you're going on your way, when you go to bed at night, when you wake up in the morning, which means 24. All the time. And if you look at Rabbi Ara Shlita, you see how before he does anything, he's always connecting to Hashem. He's always praying to Hashem. Before he comes into the synagogue, he's praying to Hashem. Before he sits down, after he sits down, and before he gives a lecture, he's praying to Hashem. When he goes out, before he gets into the car, he's praying to Hashem. Because he knows Hashem is controlling what's going on the roads, the traffic. He knows Hashem is driving all the cars, so to speak. He prays to Hashem. Before he walks in his house at night, before he goes in, his hands on the mezuzah, he's praying to Hashem before he walks into his home to spend evening with the family. Always loving Hashem, always being aware of Hashem. And what does Hashem want us to do? How are we going to love Him? How are we going to serve Him in truth? How are we going to be able to have faith in Him, to have connection to Him? Only one way. Hashem says, be holy, for I am holy. Hashem, it's a command. He says, be holy. Why? Because I'm holy, says Hashem. Well, if Hashem says, be holy, then you can. It means you can be holy. It means anybody can be holy. No matter what your background is, no matter what kind of family situation you were born into, no matter what your situation in life is right now. Every single person has the capacity to be holy. Holy means not just clean from lusts, not just sober from lusts, but holy. Holy is a whole nother thing. Holy means you can be cleansed and you can be purified completely of any form of sins. You can be completely cleaned. We're going to go into that more. It's Hashem. Being holy is the general remedy for everything. Because if you're holy, then you can have emunah. You can't have a person who isn't pure, can't really believe in God. Because he's not loyal to God, he's loyal to other things, so to speak. All right? A person who isn't holy can't cling to God, he can't be close to God. A person who isn't holy isn't going to have the yeshiva, he isn't going to have the settled mind, he isn't going to have the mental composure to even begin to pray or get close to God. Because his mind is, he opened his eyes and she or he are looking at all these things. And then you lose control over your brain. Because all those things keep going and reminding you of what you don't have in this area of your life and in that area of your life. And it becomes insane if you could see the average person's mind, Rabbi Yitzchak Levi Yitzchak Bender says. So we have to understand that there's a reason not to covet. So that's the general remedy. Be holy, be pure. Now, Rabbi Nosson of Breslov, the chief disciple of Rabbi Nachman, he said that in your journey of spirituality, in your growth, don't read books that will discourage you, right? All for them and not for all people. Or maybe a sefer that is not for you now is going to be for you in a year or 5 years. But he said, if you're getting discouraged and you're starting to get down on yourself, don't read that sefer. Read a different sefer. Now, if he said that 200 years ago regarding holy Sforim, and he said there are even certain holy books that we shouldn't read, what would he say today about secular books that are trying to help people to alleviate, okay, there's a good reason to try to alleviate human suffering and to help people with addictions and so on and so forth. But if a person's getting discouraged by these books, then they shouldn't read them. And likewise, if a person is going to meetings, self-help meetings, group meetings, and they're getting discouraged because they're hearing a lot of people talk about problems and complaining and putting a lot of negative emotionality into the air and feeling so discouraged that they're going to always have this problem and they're never going to be able to uproot this problem. They're going to have this problem until their last dying breath, God forbid. And they're going to have to go to these group meetings forever for the rest of their lives. And a person's getting discouraged by that. It's not very good. It's not very good. And I'll tell you something else. There is a big difference between a Jewish hashkafa approach to helping people who are straying after things that they shouldn't stray after and that kind of approach. Because from what I understand, I'm certainly not a mumcha on the 12 steps, but from what I understand is that the 9th step is when they finally get to praying. That's when they talk about prayer, and they don't really tell you how to pray. They don't tell you how to pray with enthusiasm. They don't tell you how to pray with truth. They don't have how to tell you how to even prepare to pray, and where to go to pray, and when to pray to Hashem. We're not talking about praying with a sitter, with a prayer book. We're just talking about personal prayer. They don't tell you how to do these things, right? But our approach puts prayer in the center. It's the centerpiece of our approach to helping people to not stray after things and to be happy with their lot in life and to be encouraged even when they have a slip and they have some type of a relapse, to be encouraged, to be able to know how to renew yourself and be able to see and be joyful even with every little tiny bit of progress, and to realize, okay, the slips are there, they're there for a reason also. It's all a test, and the test helps with tikkun, it helps with soul correction, and so on and so forth. Rabbi Arish teaches us that if you can pray for 30 minutes for one thing, which is not easy, it's not an easy avodah, but anybody can learn to do it who wants to persevere. If you stay on one thing, let's say there's one thing you need to change, you want to pray for, that you're going to, be able to resist the temptation to overeat, or to gamble, chas v'shalom, or to drink alcohol, or take substances, or lust after things. If you stay on that for one half hour, you are guaranteed success. If you keep persevering, at first it's not easy. But a person who has the will, the ratzon, to continue, Hashem sees that you have that desire, and Hashem helps you get help from heaven. God gives you help from heaven. He gives you extra help. That kind of a person is a very beloved person to God. And God helps that person. God looks at that person's holy desire to be able to overcome a problem, and He looks at that person as though he's already overcome that problem. There's a story in the Gemara about a man who was the worst criminal in the whole city, and he desired to change. He wanted to be righteous, and he wanted to marry the pure, beautiful, holy daughter of the chief rabbi of the city. And the Talmud says that all he did was think about wanting to be righteous, and that was enough. That was enough so that he was qualified to marry that girl, because he wasn't wicked anymore. Now he was considered righteous. Think about that. He didn't change at all. How could he be considered righteous? He didn't demonstrate in his behavior that he's changed one iota. He didn't even declare verbally that he wants to change. All he did was think it. But thinking it was enough. Because Hashem says, wow, I see into that guy. I see what he wants. I see what he really, really what he's really desiring, what he's chalishing for, as we say in Yiddish. And Hashem helps such people. When a person has, so that gives strength in a way that secular programs can't. Because secular programs don't talk about hischadshus. They don't talk about renewal. They don't understand that Hashem will completely wipe the slate clean, and they don't understand that sometimes a fall is for the sake of going up. In fact, we learn that we can only go up if we have falls. That's just the way God built it into the creation, into the fabric of creation. You have to fall in order to go up. So it's not a fall down, it's a fall up. If you have this philosophy, if you have this knowledge, what we call Jewish hashkafa or Jewish philosophy, not exactly a great translation, but these ideas, then you can renew yourself, and you don't get self-persecutory over the fact that you broke your diet. What you do is you renew yourself, and you have even more desire to do better, and you believe you can do better. It's a big difference. 30 minutes a day, prayer and self-assessment, the centerpiece of the Jewish pathway to healing, the Jewish pathway to getting over improper desires of all kinds. In our lexicon, there is no such thing as an addict. No such thing. We would never label a person an addict. Even a person who has the most extreme addictive behaviors, we would say, no, he's got addictive behaviors. Very extreme ones. But we would never define a person by his external behavior. It's not him. It's his evil inclination that's inciting him to behave that way. Who is he? He's not an addict. He's a soul. He's a soul. He's a holy neshama. He's a piece of Hashem himself. And he's suffering. And he needs to know that he can cleanse himself. And he can become holy, like Hashem tells him he can be. Be holy, Hashem says, because he knows you can be holy. Why can you be holy? Because Hashem is holy and Hashem made you. You're a piece of Hashem. You're a piece of Hashem. You're a piece of holiness. And you're very sweet to Hashem. He loves you. He loves you. He loves you more than you can imagine. He loves you more than you can love yourself, more than your parents can love you, more than your grandparents can love you. He loves you unconditionally. He loves the worst sinners. He loves people of all nations, of all backgrounds, of all nationalities, of all ethnic groups. Hashem loves his creations. And that's why he wants you to speak to him. That's why he gave you the intelligent speech that you have, that you can speak to him. You can speak to your loving father like he's a father, like he's a good, close friend. You can talk to him. You can pour out your heart to him. You can tell him what you need. You can tell him how hard it is. You can ask him to help you understand why it's so important that you make this change, to give you the strength, to give you the ability to persevere, to help you have more emunah, to help you have more faith, to not stress yourself out over things that you can't change, to accept those things that you can't change. No such thing as an addict. It's better to turn to Hashem than to turn to 100 people a day. It's better to turn to Hashem than to make 100 to 200 phone calls a day. Turn to Hashem and develop a close bond with Hashem, and Hashem will be close with you. Hashem is close with you all the time. We have to know that he is, and we have to be close with him. Why do we want to keep a positive approach to helping people? People who have addictions, people who have improper desires, people who are straying after all kinds of things, materially and so on. It's because if we're not positive in our approach, and we start fetching, and we start whining, and we start complaining. What does this sound like in heaven? Well, the prosecuting angels say, hey, Hashem, sounds like this guy's not so happy with the way you're running his life. He's not so happy with the tests you gave him. You gave him these addictive behaviors. You gave him these desires, or her, these desires that are improper. And he doesn't thank you for those things. Wait a minute. Why should a person thank Hashem for his nisyonos? Why should he thank Hashem for his tests and his challenges? The reason that we should thank Hashem is because thanking Hashem is really the truth. To thank Hashem, to say thank you Hashem, is really the ultimate truth. Because everything that is coming from Hashem, everything, whether it seems good or not, is good. Hashem tov l'kol. And thanking Hashem is something else. It's also a tikkun. Thanking Hashem, every time a person thanks God, especially for challenges, challenges which usually help us because it brings us closer and makes us pray more. We don't pray as much when we're successful, so to speak. We get arrogant. We think it was ours, our achievement. But when you thank Hashem, what we're doing is we're making a correction for something that happened many, many years ago that Hashem hasn't forgotten about yet. And that's when the Jewish people went into the land of Israel and they came back, the whole story of the spies, and they came back and they complained. They complained and they spoke badly about this land, which we should never do, even to this day. A person should never say, it's too hot here in Israel, chas v'shalom. We should never complain about this place. It's a holy place. So what did they do? They complained about Israel. They complained that they said this is not a good land. Wait a minute, Hashem said, go, it's a beautiful land. It's a land of milk and honey. Go, I give it to you. It's a free gift. You're going to be able to oust the people that are there, and you're going to be able to build a beautiful society based on the Torah that I just gave you. Because of that ingratitude, following this, the story of the spies, we need to make a correction for that by thanking God. And we do. We make that correction by thanking God. We don't complain about anything. So when you go, if a person goes to 12-step meetings or self-help meetings, and you're listening to people and they're only complaining, they're not trying to encourage and give you strength and so on and so forth. But they're just complaining and whining. It's not good. It's not the place for you to go. Find another meeting to go to. Find another type of a therapy. Complaining and whining is not what Hashem wants. We have to understand that everything that Hashem does is for our very, very best. And people who suffer from difficulties and have all kinds of improper desires, they're all good people. And they were given, we don't know why they have these tests. We don't know what a person went through in previous life or previous lifetimes. But whatever a person has to correct in this world, they're given the advantages and the disadvantages. Everything that a person is given is meant to help them. If a person is rich or a person is poor, a person has a healthy body or he has an unhealthy body. A person has a lot of money or he has hardly no money. All of these things are Hashem's calculations, exactly in detail to every single individual, what he needs or she needs in this life. If you imagine all the grains of sand on the beaches of all the worlds, that's how many calculations Hashem has to make. Imagine just for one person's life. He's got billions and billions of people. But everything is calculated to perfection. Why? Because Hashem is just. Justice. Divine justice doesn't make mistakes. We don't question it. We don't complain about it. We use it to be able to grow. Use it to grow. So we shouldn't get discouraged. Everybody can be holy. Everybody can uproot these types of problems. Anybody that tells you that you're going to have this problem for the rest of your life, and I've heard all kinds of horrible things. People come and tell me that they were told they're going to have this problem all their lives. They're going to go to their graves with this problem. That they're like pickles that'll never be cucumbers again. You know, take a pure cucumber and you put it in, you soak it in the liquid, and then it becomes a pickle. It's never going to become a pure cucumber again. No, that's no way to compare a human mind to a pickle. There's a form of koshering where they use fire, right, to kosher something, right? Or take blood. They can take blood out of meat with something called sli, which is roasting it. It's a very powerful way of removing the dam, removing the blood from the basar, from the meat. Right? It's more powerful than cooking is. Right? Well, the Torah is compared to Aish, it's compared to fire. So, just like fire can purify and kosher something that isn't kosher, so can learning Torah and talking to Hashem. It can kosher a person's brain that isn't kosher. A person can become even better as a result of his problems, and he certainly will be better and higher and holier as a result of mastering his problems than he could have been if he never had any problems at all, which is a pella, which is an amazing thing. Take a person who never had problems, and take a person who had these terrible problems, you know, with terrible consequences for people if they don't work on them, and then they work on them, they go shooting way above the person that doesn't have problems. Sometimes Hashem, if you look at people that don't have any tests at all in life, hard to find, but there are some that don't seem to get tested. Everything goes totally smooth for them. It could be that Hashem is basically said, listen, you know, he's sort of like Kaviyachal giving up on that person. He's going to say, okay, have an easy life, but you're not going to have an afterlife. You're going to get all your pleasure now in this world. And in the next world, for him there is no next world. Right? Or the next world he's going to get isn't one he's going to really like. Rejoice in every little bit of success that you have. I meet people that are restraining themselves from acting badly. They hold themselves back with their own intellect and their own willpower. But they're not learning about holiness. And because Hashem really isn't in the picture for those people, even though they're restraining from doing something bad, they haven't uprooted the urges and the desires to do bad. So that means that their external behavior might be acceptable, but inside there's a bilbil, there's a turmoil going on inside, and their minds are filled with all kinds of conflictual thoughts and intrusive thoughts, and they never have rest from them. They don't have sweet dreams. A person who uproots his desires has the sweetest dreams. He can sleep like a baby, like an innocent child. And a person who develops more of this holiness that we're talking about is even merits to have holy dreams. Holy dreams. Because there's stories of people that, of great people who went up to heaven, who wanted to come into a dream. They wanted to come into somebody's dream, a relative, an ex-spouse, or somebody like that. But they couldn't. They were denied admission. Why? Because the person was sad, because the person's worried, because the person lacks faith, because the first person is impure in some way. So, don't read books that discourage you. Don't identify yourself as your identity. Don't think of your identity as someone who is some type of diagnosis or some kind of addictive disorder. You're a holy soul, and so on and so forth. Okay. With all of this, how is a person going to be able to succeed? How is he going to learn how to pray and make prayer the centerpiece of his life? You need a spiritual guide. How are you going to be able to understand and really internalize Rabbi Arish's holy sefer, all of his holy books? You need a guide most of the time to be able to explain what he's saying. Some of it is pretty it's pretty obvious, but not all of it, and it can be misinterpreted. So you need a spiritual guide for that. The main benefit, the main approach here is to input all kinds of very, very positive things into our minds, and to turn away from the negative, turn away from complaining, turn away from the medical model which focuses on problems and pathology and so forth. We're going to look at solutions, not problems. We're going to look at solutions. We're going to look at spiritual answers. We're going to use the holy Torah and the teachings of the Torah that we can trust, right? And only teachings from the Torah to be able to overcome all kinds of psychological and emotional difficulties. That's the only way that a person's going to get permanent relief from his emotional difficulties. That's the only way. It can't just be a positive approach, because what's positive to them may not be positive to us. If positive doesn't include knowing your mission in life, then it's not positive. How can a person be positive if he doesn't know his mission in life, he doesn't know his purpose in life? How can a person be positive if he doesn't understand that his goal is to get to the next world, to get to Gan Eden, to Garden of Eden, where the rewards are unimaginable? How can he be positive? What does he have to be so positive about if he doesn't have God in his life? What is so positive? Being positive that he's going to make a lot of money? Being positive that he's going to have more success and fame? Be positive that he's going to develop skills that will exceed those of his neighbors and his friends? Well, we don't consider these things positive. We consider these things negative. So for us, positivity has to be wed with holiness and a holy desire and a wish to serve God. When you really, really wish to serve God with all of your heart, when you love God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your might, then you have a good life. Then you're happy. Then you're happy. And happiness and purity go together. Happiness and purity they work together. So we strive to be happy as well as pure. When a person isn't happy, that's when he strays towards impurity. You got to find ways of being happy. You got to find ways of lifting our spirits. You got to find ways of finding your good points in life. The things that you're good at. Even the tiny little things that you don't think are so great. Magnify them. Because you know what? Up there, they're much bigger than you think they are. So, we need a spiritual guide. I'm going to give you a phone number in a minute so you know how to contact us. You have to stay happy with your progress, right? Don't be part of any assembly where you're going to feel devalued if you have a setback. Setbacks are part of growth. Setbacks are necessary. There's a big difference between a person having a setback who's not working on himself and a person who has a setback who is. People who have setbacks, when they're working on themselves, they use those setbacks, they make them stronger. And so can you. Remember all of these commandments. To love Hashem. To not be tempted by other things. To not go after other things and love other things instead of Hashem. These are commandments for all mankind. These are commandments for all humans. And the tests that we have in life are meant to bring us higher and higher. And this is basically based on the idea that your brain is your soul. Your brain is your holy soul, and you have within your brain the ability to overcome all types of lusts and all types of tests. God built you, and He gave you all the right equipment that you need to be able to be holy and pure, and to be able to withstand all the temptations and all the filth that this world is throwing at people. Remember, this is the world that our great sages from thousands of years ago said that they didn't want to be part of. Our generation, they said, oh, we don't want to, may the Messiah come, but we don't want to see Him. What they meant was, if they lived today in 2017, as great as they were, as holy as they were, we can't even imagine how holy they were. They didn't even believe that they could withstand the temptations that are here today. And yet God brings you and I into this particular generation. He must believe that you and I can withstand the temptations that exist today. Because God is not so cruel to be able to give a person a test that he can't pass. That's impossible. It's impossible that you're given a test that you can't pass. You have to hold on with faith. You have to pray every day. We need to set a time every day. It doesn't have to be the same time, but it's better if it could be the same time every day. To turn to Hashem. To block out the world, to close your eyes and to talk to Hashem and connect with Him and get to know Him. To ask Him for what you need, to tell Him your troubles. To ask Him to open up your heart, to help you to become more pure, to help you to have more faith, to help you to be more kind and more loving and more patient. Patience, Rabbi Arish talked about just today, that patience is, lack of patience is a lack of emunah. A person who gets in his car and he's yelling and screaming at people, he doesn't realize Hashem wants the traffic to stop. We don't know why. Hashem wants a person to be delayed. We don't know why. So he's beeping his horn. That's not emunah. He says we should never beep our horns. Except if there's an emergency, then. But generally, Hashem's driving all these cars. Hashem is in charge. When a person is rushing, he doesn't have emunah. He's trying to go against the way Hashem wants things to be. If Hashem wants you to be late, you're going to be late. You try to be on time, but people shouldn't rush. You shouldn't make this some crazy. He told a story about a tzaddik, a righteous person, who his whole life he never ran after a bus. Never ran after a bus because he figured if the bus leaves before he gets there, he wasn't meant to get on that bus. One time in his life he ran after a bus. And for that he repented. For that he repented. Because on his level, that was a lack of faith. Why is he rushing? Why is he trying to force something that it isn't Hashem's will? So, he repented. Okay, we do our best. I want to give you a phone number you can call for more information about any of our products, any of our services, and if you want to consult with me, you want to consult with Rebbetzin Hanan, who is our Emunah coach, certified Emunah coach, certified, totally endorsed by Rabbi Shalom Arush Shlita for women. You can call 718-577-2975. That's 718-577-2975. Call between 2 and 11 p.m. Israel time. whatever time that is where you live. But between 2 and 11, we have people here at the phones. Dial 1 for extension 1 in English. Ask for Rabbi Dubinsky or just Aaron, if that's easier for you to remember. And Rabbi Aaron will speak to you. He's very friendly, very compassionate, very warm and a knowledgeable person. He can tell you all about our books, our CDs, all of the products that we have, as well as how to consult with myself and others, Rabbi Laser Brody included. So, again, 718-577-2975. Thanks for coming. Thank you. We appreciate your time. We hope you all have everything that you need to be able to be happy. Hashem should give you everything you need, and you should realize that Hashem is everything you need. You should pray to Him every day. You should see bracha, hatzlacha. Anyone that needs refuah should have refuah shlema. It's Hashem, we should see the coming of Mashiach soon in our day, and see this temple built speedily in our day. Amen.